Hey everyone, it's Sarah and Eric.
And in this video, we're introducing a new series called Food for Thought, where we make a food or a drink and have a conversation. And in today's video, we're making coffee. Alright, we're going to start by adding in some soy milk, and then we're going to pop this bad boy in the microwave for about 20 to 25 seconds. Then you're going to add your sugar to taste. We use sugar in the raw, followed by a splash of vanilla extract. Then mix all that together. Then here comes the fun part. We're going to froth the milk just to add some foam to it. If you're using soy milk, I recommend another brand that's not Silk because it doesn't really froth too well. Then pour in your coffee. And then a double take from Sarah. She kind of faked me out there. And lastly, add a little dash of cinnamon to get those Instapics.
For our first Food for Thought video, we had a couple of ideas, but our followers on Instagram helped us decide on a topic, which is working from home. I have been working from home for probably about 2 years now. I'm currently a freelance editor, and before that I worked remotely for a company, so it's pretty much all I know for a full-time job.
As for me, I'm currently a college student. It's my last year. I'm getting my bachelor's degree in psychology, and when this whole thing hit, the whole coronavirus hit, basically they shut down all classes, all face-to-face classes, and moved everything to online. So I've been working online for the past, I would say, month and a half. My graduation date, that got canceled and everything. So it's been a big change for me as well. And also I was tutoring at my college. Yeah, I've had to definitely adjust to that whole life, and working from home is definitely something that took some time for me to get used to, basically. One of the biggest factors that probably impact our performance the most, whether it be doing schoolwork from home or working from home, is being motivated and maintaining that motivation. It can be really difficult and challenging for us and everybody else, really. But ultimately, together, we sort of found a few different tips that help us stay motivated and not fall into, depressive slumps, essentially.
One thing that we've been working on for a really long time is establishing a solid morning routine, and it kind of changes with the seasons and what we want to accomplish in our lives, but when we do follow some sort of morning routine, no matter what it is, I feel like we both tend to just be able to jump into the workday a lot easier.
Yeah, to be honest, I was sort of a mess before I met Sarah. I was not always a morning person, actually. I was more of a night owl, ate a lot of junk food at night, and woke up just feeling terrible and sort of disorganized and chaos. And then Sarah came along and sort of made me a morning person, and it's definitely helped me with my studies and other aspects of my life as well.
And you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. Or run a marathon in the morning. Just having that schedule to kind of jumpstart your day and get your brain working, it just seems to help. But while you may not have to run a marathon, exercise is one thing that can get your day moving along. Again, this is something that we struggle with, but seems to help whenever we do it in the morning.
Yeah, usually if we don't work out, sometimes we do like a light workout with like squats or push-ups or something, just to get the blood flowing. And sometimes when we don't exercise, you might go for a walk depending on the weather outside. So that just getting that fresh air and being outside just sort of wakes you up.
And one of the topics of this video, coffee. We love coffee, as I'm sure many of you do. And at this point, it's just become a routine, and having that morning coffee or a really good breakfast is another thing that kind of jumpstarts your day gets you into working mode, feels like you're accomplishing something with your life.
Yeah, honestly, without this coffee, I get more, how do I say, cranky? Do I get cranky? I get a little cranky. I don't think as well. I sort of, I guess, find it difficult to form even basic sentences. So this is like my, I don't know, what is this? Lifesaver batteries, I guess, I don't know. But yeah, once I get my coffee going, I feel motivated, although it's kind of, I don't know, I feel like I'm relying too much on the coffee.
Maybe it's an unhealthy habit, but
hey,
it works for us.
Exactly. So after you've had your coffee, you've gone on your walk, you've done your exercise, it's time to get dressed. Now, personally, if I'm laying around here with sweatpants and a sweater, I feel like a total bum, and I feel just gross and just less motivated to really do anything besides eat potato chips and play video games. I kind of find it helpful to plan out your outfits for the next day. So once you're done your morning routine, you get dressed, or something nice but not too nice. I normally dress how I would normally go to school. Jeans, cardigan, shirt, something like that. Just something that's not, that makes you feel baggy.
Even if you're absolutely feeling like a bum and you just do not want to get out of your pajamas, even changing, sometimes I'll change out of my sweatpants into leggings, and even just changing out of what you slept in can make you feel better. Now you're dressed, you're ready for the day, but before you get to work, we think it's really helpful to plan out your day. We have lately been using Google Calendar to literally plan out minute by minute our days, which you obviously don't have to do. A simple to-do list might work for you, but I personally find it really helpful to know exactly what I'm doing during the day and when I'm doing it. And even if my schedule changes, I can easily update it. And I don't know, it just makes my mind feel much clearer about the day.
You also want to schedule in breaks. You don't want to constantly work throughout the whole day. Obviously, you need to have lunch breaks. Sometimes if we don't walk in the morning, we'll schedule a walk later in the afternoon.
Once you're working, maybe you have some tasks that you really don't want to do. It's okay, it happens. But maybe try to provide yourself with a little reward at the end of the task, just to keep your motivation boosted throughout the day. Maybe you have a chocolate bar that you really are excited about, but first you have to send a really complicated email.
Yeah.
Write that email, and that chocolate bar.
For me, it's video games. If I do my homework, then I can play Tekken 7 for multiple hours.
Another thing to consider is what time of day works best for you. I know a lot of people have to work 9 to 5 or set hours for their jobs, but if you have some flexibility, try experimenting with what time of day you work. For a really long time, I've been working 9 to 5, but very recently, I've tried working a little earlier in the morning because that's when my mind is sharpest. That's when I'm most motivated to do work, because by the afternoon, I also want to just play video games for hours. So I think that is working a lot better for me.
Okay, let's say at the end of the day, you realize that work was tough. Maybe you didn't even get as much as you would like, but honestly, that's okay. We've had our days where we, don't do as much as we would like, and we sort of get down on ourselves, but I think, honestly, that only makes matters worse. So basically what I'm trying to say is it's okay to have bad days. Not every day is going to be, full on 110%. If I'm in that mindset and I'm telling myself that I should have gotten more done than I did, well, I sort of combat that by saying, well, at least I got something done. I was in the complete low life all day. So, little things like that help you attack the next day a bit better.
Another huge part of working at home, and something that is probably my biggest challenge, is distractions.
I sort of contribute to those distractions sometimes. I can be a bit of a pest, and I like to bother Sarah, so that often gets me in trouble, but that's just love.
No matter what you do, who you live with, where you are, there are always going to be distractions. So there are ways to get around them or to at least combat them a little bit. In my, couple of years working at home, probably the biggest help for me is putting on some headphones, blocking out the world, and playing some music.
When I'm writing like research papers for my classes, I often choose music that doesn't have any dialogue. I listen to some unique hipster stuff. I can link a playlist down below, but basically something that doesn't really get you pumped up, but it just sort of relaxes you.
If you just aren't a fan of regular music in general, whenever you're doing your work, there's a great website called mynoise.net that I really love using, and it has a lot of natural sounds, so rain, beaches, wind, all kinds of cool stuff that you can put on in the background that kind of just helps your mind hone in on whatever you're working on.
For me personally, one big distraction that I always have is being overwhelmed by all of the tasks that I have at hand. I can sort of get overwhelmed, but I find it helpful to just attack things one step at a time. It's kind of a shame that we live in a world where people require you to do multiple things at once. They multitask essentially. But honestly, what I've learned is our minds aren't really made for that. So I think it's better for me, and I think for Sarah as well, is to, whatever you have working on, just one step at a time, one thing at a time, as opposed to trying to do a little bit of everything all at once.
And kind of on a similar note, I am a chronic tab switcher when I'm working on things. And often that tab is email. It could be other things too, but just learn from my mistakes. Close your tabs and only work on what you're supposed to be working on, because I promise that you will get it done way faster. So on that note, obviously I'm sure all of you know that technology is another huge distraction, and it can be really, really difficult to not be distracted by those. So one thing that you can do, that I try to do, is use apps on your computer or cell phone that will block certain websites for however many hours you set. So I use one called Self-Control on my computer, and I can block Facebook, Pinterest, YouTube, whatever. And so when I have that itch to switch over to one of those websites and I go, it won't let me, and usually that's good enough to get me back to work.
As I said before, I'm a tutor at my college, and students always ask me, what are your study habits? Well, honestly, I am a terrible studier. Is that a word? I am terrible at studying. I have bad habits. The big thing for me was, even my early years at college, was I would always study while the TV was on. I usually had it onto something that I wanted to watch. So I was multitasking and not studying as effective as I should have been.
And the last thing with technology is, if it's not essential, just turn it off. If you don't need your phone during the workday, or maybe for part of the workday, just turn it off. I'm sure that the world will be okay without you for a few hours. The last thing that we want to talk about related to working from home is work-life balance. And work-life balance is really, really important to me, but I know it can be super difficult to have that balance when you work where you live. If you don't already have pretty strict work hours, create those work hours first of all, and then stick to them. Unless you have a huge emergency, just don't check texts from your coworkers or check emails after you're finished working for the day.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenges that I've faced in my life is learning how to say no as far as work. I can be a bit of a people pleaser, and let's say if someone asks me to help them on a paper, or I get an email from a student asking me a question about tutoring, I automatically want to help that person, even if it's 9 o'clock at night or midnight or something. And I think honestly, over time, that sort of can get a bit draining. And again, you're not setting yourself with those certain boundaries. I did this when I wasn't working from home.
Even if you establish a really good work-life balance for after you're done with the workday, you should still think about, your mental health and that balance during the workday too. If you have a half an hour or a 45-minute lunch break, don't work on that lunch break, because you won't really have the chance to take your mind off work. And honestly, when you don't take your mind off work throughout the day, you just do worse work.
At the end of the day, you want to make a mental shift from work life to home life. Now, for me personally, that comes down to as simple as something as changing your clothes. Basically, I put on something a bit more comfy and start to unwind a little bit. I might I might play games, or if I'm cooking a meal that day, I might, start prepping for that.
And just like you might switch your phone off during the workday to avoid distractions, switch your phone off at some point in the evening to avoid distractions. I personally try to switch my phone off around 8 p.m. every night, so I'm not checking social media or my work email, which really helps me focus on being present when I'm at home with Eric, doing whatever we're doing. And that is all for our first Food for Thought video.
Woo! We had a lot of fun shooting this, but honestly, we're still, growing and adjusting to this whole new life. And so if you have any tips on how you handle working from home, please let us know down below. If you like this style of video,
give us a like.
Give us a like, yeah. And maybe recommend topics for the next Food for Thought video.
But that's all we have for today, and we'll see you next time.